Next up, there's basically a request for a block description. I was wondering if you think it would be helpful to label cycles as we work through them. I think it might change my mindset approaching sets, or is it better to just focus on hitting the RPE for that set for the day? I get what you're saying, and I'm not opposed to providing more information on the overall structure. I think a lot of that can be gleaned just by looking at the training itself. But I don't think that, just because you're in one type of block or another, that should change how you're approaching the actual training session. If I told you were in a volume block and it required, a series of singles at 8 RPE, you should hit that series of singles at 8 RPE regardless of whether it's a volume block or an intensity block. The name that we attach to the training block does not drive effects to the training itself. We could call it block 1 or 2, and it's going to be the same training. I do understand that it could drive a change in mindset, but that's not really what I'm wanting from you at this point in time. For most of the training strategies that we use block terms like a developmental block or a specialization block or a sport form block for most of them. So you wouldn't even really be getting terminology that may be more familiar to you, like a volume block or an accumulation block. And it's because, to me, those names imply something very specific that I'm not trying to do with the training strategies that I've created. So I use names that imply something specific in a different direction. So for me, a developmental block is focused on, it's similar in style to what you would see in an accumulation block from traditional block periodization. So it focuses on more morphological and developmental changes to the athlete. However, it's not applied the same way that you would apply a block periodization model. So I didn't feel justified in using a block periodization terminology because it doesn't mean the same thing. Okay, and the overall effects of it aren't the same. So if I told you that you're in a developmental cycle, does that change anything about how you execute the workouts? It shouldn't. Does it change anything about your mentality as you approach the workouts? Maybe, but that's going to be dependent on how much you understand about the underlying structure behind the training group that you're in. Now, what I intend to do, and I've been saying this for a little while, I'm getting closer to working my way toward it. I want to publish a document that will highlight all the different training groups that we have and give you some information about them. So that should help you as an athlete to request changes to training groups if you're so inclined, if there's something that you want to try or don't want to try. That should also allow us to have more of a common language so that we can discuss more of the underlying principles underneath each of these training programs for those people who are interested in such things. So kind of a long way around for a non-answer, I know, and I apologize for that. I guess kind of to recap what I'm saying, I don't use block terminology that is going to be familiar to most people. The terminology that I use does mean something specific in the context of these training strategies. I don't want it to change anything about how you actually execute the training. I want you to just follow your RPE recommendations. And I understand that it can affect your mentality, but that's going to be contingent on your understanding, which right now we just don't have the resources in place to really bring that up to the level where it could be. But all that stuff is in the works, and it should be coming down the pipe here pretty soon. So good question. Thanks for asking.